Ew.
Welcome in everybody to the Sideline Fantasy Podcast. It's kind of our week one review, week two preview show. Look at us. We're already at it. We're staying committed. We're back after just 1 week. Hopefully we make weekly appearances here. Welcome in everybody. Get to talk shit on some teams, get to talk some good stuff on some others. How we doing, Crimmy? Feeling decent?
Yeah, after Monday Night Football, I'm feeling pretty good. You're probably feeling not so great
Yeah.
yourself. It doubled down for you for sure. But yeah, I
We
mean,
got live reactions on that one. You
yeah,
got to you
yeah,
got to hear all that fun stuff.
I did, I was a little bit behind. All I heard was kind of the air leaving the room. I don't know how you make that sound, but that's all I heard. And then I see Aaron Jones catch that touchdown. I'm like, all right, that was all I needed to happen.
And I don't know if you remember me saying this. It was like 5 minutes before that because we were obviously chilling, watching it together. It was like 5 minutes before that. I said, I didn't, because for those that aren't in the keeper league, I was playing Crim in the keeper league as well. I had Swift down 10. He needed 10 points. Crim, obviously, in this league, had Aaron Jones, who only needed, what, six and a half it
I think
was
six and a
points.
half. Yeah.
And it was in the fourth quarter, and I was just like, man, I didn't think I was going to win any of these matchups, but maybe one, right? Maybe one. And I'm like, but not both. And then within 5 minutes, boom, boom, good night, over. I'm like, well, at least the Bears can win. No, couldn't even do that. So it was rough. I call that the 0 for 3. Both fantasy teams lost and the Bears lost. It was like I couldn't even get one of them. So, and of course, I remember even seeing that DeAndre Swift catch and then it got called. Oh man, just I don't want to relive the memories. We got to move. We're week two now. We're week two, but
Yeah,
not quite
we
so
moved
fast
on.
yet. You're still supporting your ball club. You're loyal. You got your Panthers jersey on, despite them maybe looking like the worst team in the league last week. Um, but let's talk about week one from a fantasy football perspective. Obviously, you're on the front page here. For those that are new to the league, and obviously I say this every year, so even if you're not new to the league, you know I'm going to say it. The first five matchups are always divisional matchups. Your first five games are going to be against teams in your own division. So after the first week, there's always 3-1-0 teams and 3-0-1 teams in the division. It's always going to look like that. It's always going to be that. So that's kind of how it goes. Your division matchups are huge, right? Because again, only three teams make the playoffs from each division. Okay, so that's key in this. So division games are big. Your first three matchups you will play twice. So I do get to get revenge on Crim later in the year. Once it gets around Christmas time, we'll see if it happens. But kind of Crim, tell me, break down like your thoughts of week one. Was there anything shocking, surprising? Was there anything like, wow, this happened, that happened in terms of like fantasy in general, or what was perceived or seen? Obviously, you got like the high scores up on the screen right now. So just kind of break down any thoughts you had about week one.
Yeah, I mean, week one was a very odd week. I know the thought is normally defenses are always ahead of offenses when it comes to week one, so you kind of expect lower scores. Not this low though. I think these scores were around the league were just lower than normal
Yeah.
for a week one. But just looking at some of the superstars and some of these guys that dudes drafted first round or first overall, even. I mean, like Jamar Chase against the Cleveland Browns, you would figure like I know the track record isn't the greatest just because the Browns have played him so much, but to get I don't even 5 points, I think, out of your first round, first overall 101 pick is crazy. I mean, looking
Yeah.
at top scorers here, yeah, some familiar names and quarterbacks, but when the top receivers on the week are Zay Flowers, Keon Coleman, Quentin Johnston,
Yeah.
that to
Not
me,
not names you throw up there in the top
no, no.
20, 30
So
receivers by any means. Yeah.
I mean, we saw just low scores all around, and just some of your studs that I mean, I don't think anybody really was happy with their studs unless you had like Derrick Henry. I feel like outside of that, the top
Or
10 names
Bajan. I mean,
here,
only two first round picks on that list are what? Bajan and
yeah,
Derrick Henry.
Bajan. I mean, even
Even if you go down to 30, let's keep going. Let's see. McCaffrey
yeah,
was the
you have
first rounder, so
McCaffrey
17.
17, Puka 18, and even Puka. Like I was happy with what he did for my
Right.
team, but he, at the first half of the game wasn't fantastic. So I mean, the top 25 players here, you don't see a lot of first round guys. You don't really see a lot of, I guess, franchise staples in the fantasy sense where you think that these guys were drafted to kind of lead these teams. I mean, you'll take it if you're the owner of a Debo or even a Gary Wilson, though I thought was going to probably fall off a little bit here. McCarthy, I mean, you're a top 22 player in fantasy, and you were sitting on the waiver wire that I picked up on Monday night. So it's a lot to be desired. Leaves a lot to be desired for sure after week one, but at the same time, it is week one, so you can't put too much stock into it. However, it's something I think about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember posting that one thing in the chat where it said no player scored over 30 and this is before Sunday or Monday Night Football. Obviously, Josh Allen changed that. He was the only one to actually have changed that. Fields obviously was close, but this is the first time zero players have scored 30 points prior to Sunday or Monday Night Football in week one since the year 2000. I mean,
Gotcha.
that's 20, that's almost 25 years that
Yeah,
nobody had scored 30 points heading into Sunday or Monday Night Football.
yeah,
That is nuts.
and then you just look at the points that got put up too with a game like the Steelers and the Jets. Both
Yeah.
quarterbacks are top 10, yes, for sure. But I mean, scrolling through it, you have
Where's their
Garrett Wilson at
guys?
21. That's it, right? So
Yeah.
that game had a ton of points. Nothing fantasy related unless you had a quarterback or Garrett Wilson. So it's
Right.
very
And
weird.
that probably in that game itself, I remember me and you talking about it when we were watching the game. Probably, I don't remember for sure, probably had one of the lowest over-unders in all of the
Yeah,
games,
had to.
Steelers, Jets, right? You'd think, and then it was just crazy like that, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it just looking at coming out of week one and just kind of your first glance at these players. Um, again, leaves a lot to be desired, but some people may take that as a blessing and try to take advantage of that, and some may fall into that trap and kind of sell low on some of their guys. So it's always interesting to see how people react coming out of week one. We had a little bit of movement that we'll talk about here shortly, but not a lot, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And kind of what Krim was saying here, the way we're going to kind of break down these shows, they're not going to look exactly the same every week, but typically we're going to go through, a little bit of thoughts on the last week. We're going to go over, waivers, any trades that have happened, and then kind of take a little bit of a preview look at the next week. When we get deeper into the season, more and more trades happen, this and that happens, or not enough trades are happening. Maybe me and Krim can do a little GM matchmaker and see what teams should be doing in order to get better. Because again, this is a little bit different. This is not a keeper league. You either make the playoffs or you don't make the playoffs, and that's over, right? So everyone is trying to make their team better for this year. So, real quick before we do get to the trades, though, just looking at the standings real fast. Obviously it's only been a week, but Chad starts off 1-0, Kyle 1-0, Peter 1-0, and they obviously beat Team Iceland, Buddy, Dave, and Jordan. And then in the second division, Dana starts off 1-0, the other Jordan starts off 1-0 yourself, and then Big Spelly, the new guy, starts off 1-0 as well, with Drake, myself, and Tyler being the losers. And and again, I'll mention it every year. One of the cool things I think that this app does is, and I'm sure a lot of other websites do it now, is the breakdown thing. When you scroll above the division standings and stuff, I don't really put too much stock into the coach rating because here's the way I look at the coach rating sometimes. You can have an absolutely awful bench. Like for me, example, I had like four dudes that were inactive on my bench that didn't even play. But it says I'm the fourth best coach because I made the right lineup decisions, right? For all I know, Chad has a horrible bench. And basically what the coach rating is saying is you could have started someone else and you lost out on this many points, right? That's kind of what that's saying. Tyler, on the other hand, only scored 57 points and it said he left 30 points on the table. So who knows what the reason that was? Maybe Justin Field. Who knows what could have changed that? But overall, that's kind of that. But real quick, looking at the breakdown, I always kind of like looking at that on the week. Chad obviously being the highest scoring team. He's 11-0 against the whole entire league, right? Kyle, second highest scoring team. And that's kind of how it breaks down week to week. I think the worst team that got a win was actually Big Spelly, right? He
Yeah.
was 2-9, so he really only beat his matchup and one other score, which Tyler, I believe, was his matchup, and was 2-9 against the league, right? And there are some leagues, I know Kyle has mentioned this in the past, where you can actually have like a second matchup on the week where you play against the league median, which would be like the median score, and it gives you like a second. I know Keeper League even allows that, so kind of interesting, but interesting look at the breakdown over the weeks because it kind of shows really, are you getting screwed or are you not getting screwed? Is essentially what that shows. So kind of keep tabs on that throughout the season. It's kind of a fun little thing to look at. But with that being said, Crimmy, you want to start with trades or you want to start with waiver wire?
But
Let's do waiver wire
let's do
first.
waiver wire.
Okay.
We'll just go over to ads. and that's
And
kind
it
of
does show their points, right? Yeah, it does. Okay.
yeah,
Looking at the waiver wire, my initial instinct before this week started was, man, it almost always seems like every year, whether the player actually turns out good or not, there always seems to be that player that gets nabbed for 40, 50, if dare I say 60. I think we had the Jerome Ford year where it was like literally like
yep,
99 points, right? There's always at least, it seems to be that one running back that just like wasn't expected to be the guy. And then, oh, he's the guy, 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. My initial instinct was there really was not that guy or any of, even from a receiver standpoint, that guy this year. And I think it kind of shows with the amount of points that were spent in the waiver wire. What was kind of your take on how that shook down this week?
I just felt like there were opportunities that opened up um, with some of these teams, whether it was injuries or whether it was just pure, target share with some of the receivers. But it was very barren. I mean, running back wise, looking at the waivers going into the Wednesday, Thursday that they process on different leagues, but looking at the projections, I know we talked about it briefly. There was one player, which was Kenneth Gainwell, was projected for more than 5 points. Actually, even
Yeah.
more than 4 points. He was projected for 8. Everybody else's projection was, I think, 3.3 and below. And that to me just screams out there's no value here running back wise on the waiver wire. And I mean, it goes without saying there were no pickups for running backs because there were none out there.
Yeah, literally
Um,
none. I mean, if we, I don't want to do the homework and look back on the years, but I would love to see the last time there wasn't a running back picked up on the waiver
yeah.
wire after week one. That's
And
that's
I,
kind of crazy to me.
and a lot of the experts kind of bring up waivers and say if this name's out there, go grab him. A lot of what I heard was Judkins.
Yep.
He was kind of the number one pickup for this week, which going back to the off-season stuff, I know you don't really take in a lot of the off-season fantasy talk, but the big topics were those committees at running back that people wanted a piece of and just needed to kind of get them right. So with that being such a big piece in the offseason, I feel like it was almost granted that the waiver wire would be very barren. Everyone in the draft is taking shots very late at running back. So these guys are already rostered, whether they're playing or not. I mean, for crying out loud, I had Damian Pierce on my roster, thinking he might get a chance. He had 2 carries in this game. So running backs become much more scarce in this fantasy world that receivers are kind of getting left off the table a bit. Um, and kind of having to prove themselves in a sense for us to pick them up. Even though receiver, I feel like is just as important as running back. They aren't
Sure.
as sexy. You have to you kind of look at them as their opportunities are going to be lower. But as you see, I mean, it was just receiver heaven here. When it came to our waivers this time around, was there anybody here that you were surprised to see points wise or even roster wise that were picked up?
I mean, I know at this point we could say it's only 4 points, but like Peter, why are you putting 4 points on a defense? I mean, I mean honestly, because there's been times. I mean, it's happened to me in the baseball. It's happened to me here before. I realize a team. It's not even that like I run out of points, but like oh no, a team can outbid me in points because I
Yeah,
spent maybe I have 20 and I see another team's got 22. Well, they theoretically they can outbid. So I'm not saying like oh conserve all your points. Like don't do this, don't do that. But like I think I think on the app it does show the other bids,
yeah.
but and if I look at this here, the other bids, let's see, um yeah, from what I'm seeing, not another single person bid on, unless I'm reading this wrong, but yeah, no, I don't think anyone else was putting that many points on that. So yeah, no, I don't. I think you can only see yours, interestingly enough. Hmm.
I think that when you go to waivers, it does show other people's. Unless I can also double check, but
See,
I'm
like when I
pretty
go to
certain.
mine, when
Yeah,
I click waiver report and I go to mine, it shows the two I picked up. So I picked up Dobbs for $4, and it says Kyle did a bid for two. And then I picked up the Tennessee receiver Io Maynor, and Big Spelly threw in a waiver, but he did not put any points in. But when I actually look at the other ones, I can see the winning price, but I can't really see what was paid for it. Like I can't click on the Cedric Tillman one that Drake got and see any other bids.
Yeah, no, you're correct. It is only ones you were involved in.
Yeah.
So I guess moving forward, we'll just involve ourselves in every last waiver pickup,
Yeah,
and then
because we
hope
got to at
that
least see.
we have
Got to
yeah
at
with the
least
at
see.
least see. So I mean, at least the big ones we can even just throw a $0 one. Mind you, if they're a big enough waiver pickup, we're gonna at least try more often than not. But
Sure.
um, I can guarantee you, I wasn't putting a dang point on
No.
the Los
But yeah, the,
Angeles
the
Rams
Peter one,
defense.
obviously the 4 points, it's I mean, really not the end of the world, but against people mostly stream defenses,
I
uh,
mhm. I
probably
can't I
unnecessary
can
to
I can give you a little update on that. I did try to pick them up for $0.
there you go.
So I went for 0. Chad went 1. Peter went 4. So had to
He had
go
to at
more
least
than
go two.
he had to go at least 2. So I don't
Okay.
hate it, but
Don't hate
at the
it.
same time, I still feel like I'm the most I'm putting on defense is 2.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know what
Um,
happens later on.
Overall, not shocked. I'm not shocked at all that Quentin Johnson was the most. I wondered how much he'd go for. I think my jaw would have dropped if he went for 40.
Yeah,
So I think 21 is about right. Again, I would love to see. Maybe we can get input from Tyler
I
after the
do
show.
I do I do have a little bit of information on
Oh,
that
here
too.
we go. You went after him
I
too. Let's go.
tried
Let's hear it.
also because he's on my other team, so I figured I might as well try. I was a
Sure.
bigger fan of him going into it. So Tyler went 21. I went 13. So I was
Okay.
the second highest. Peter went 12. Dave, resident Chargers fan, was
Shocked.
the last with 6. And then
Okay.
Kyle doing a bit at 7. I'm
Okay.
surprised. I mean, Dave having Lad, I think.
That's almost half the league, right? That's 5 names.
So he was sought after for sure. Um, 21 makes sense. I mean, I figured he would go double digits myself, obviously going
Yeah.
13, but I mean, 21 isn't the worst thing in the world, but those extra 8 points, you never know.
Sure. Yep. Because it goes to show he could have won it at 14. Obviously, he didn't know
Yeah.
that. He threw in what he thought was a good bid. Probably thought maybe the high bid would be 20, threw in 21. But no, I don't hate that. I expected that to be the highest one there. Not really exactly sure what the Cleveland tight end. And again, a lot of these, like Dobbs, for example, I think he was the most targeted Green Bay receiver in week 1. So I kind of felt good about that, despite having to pick up a Packer. Um, Again, Cedric Tillman had a pretty good week, but again, it's Juju Smith-Schuster probably picked up because of the Worthy injury, so that makes sense. Bote or Booty, however you say it, picked up by Peter there. So again, none of these are really surprising. None of them are shocking. I don't really. I mean, is there any of these to you? If you want to make a bold prediction, are there any of these to you that are going to be like, man, wow, we're gonna look back at this on week 15 or 16 and go, yep, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think so. I would say that there would be 2 that I think could be long-term plays.
Let's hear it.
Both of them being from you and I.
Ooh, okay.
I can't say his name. Elek Ayo from the Tennessee
Yep.
Titans. He's also Canadian, so big ups to him.
Oh, that's
Um,
well. Okay.
that that offense in itself didn't look fantastic, but I feel like that was a name that kind of was garnering some sort of, I guess, just whatever the word is. It's losing my head, but he is someone that I think could be valuable for a team and could be a wide receiver 3-2 fringe player.
Yep.
They're gonna have to throw the ball a lot. Pollard didn't look fantastic, but I mean he'll get his opportunities for sure. So it's not like he's going anywhere by any means. But I
Right.
just feel like having that connection with Cam Ward coming in as a young player, as a rookie, is helpful for AO. So I feel like he is one of the 2 that can hold long term value. Someone like Tillman, I feel like he can hold long term value. I just feel like he's more of a hot play right now. Quentin Johnston, again, he's someone who can hold long term value. I just feel like you don't get back what you put in when you have Keenan, you have Lad healthy.
And really, at the end of the day, we said this on the post draft show. They are still going to run the ball a lot. That is a
Yeah,
hardball team. So, like, how,
yeah,
how many targets can really go around? You know?
yeah. So like the Juju pick for me isn't what I'm referring to. That's kind of a short term thing with Worthy out
Yeah.
and Rice out. Isaiah Likely to me is something that could turn around and be something that helps a team like myself moving forward and the rest of the year. Just because of Mark Andrews didn't look great week 1. The same thing
Right.
happened last year where he started off very, very slow, then picked it up with touchdowns. But looking at the, watching that game, I just felt like the ball was going to one spot and it was just Zay Flowers. A ball gets caught, it's Zay Flowers.
Yeah, it
Ball
was
gets caught, it's
nuts.
just
Right.
Zay Flowers. Last year, likely came in and took a good amount of the targets away from Andrews and from Zay Flowers. So I feel like once he's healthy, if he can get up to speed quickly, Lamar trusts him. And I feel like tight end is a very wishy washy position right now, especially with some of the top tight ends like a George Kittle going down, something like an Njoku getting less opportunity because you have Fannin Jr. coming up. So tight end is very tough to depict, but I mean to me likely seems more like a receiver in a sense in that offense than tight end anyway. So I think those are the two plays that I think could hold value.
And I know, and again, I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong, if it's Booty or Bote from New England, but he had a lot of snaps last week, over 100 yards, which I think was encouraging out there. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's tough to predict, right? And by the way, Dobbs, I don't think he had the most targets, but I read he did have the most snaps out of any
Yeah,
Green Bay receiver. So that's maybe what I kind of did when picking that up. But again, no big like point dropper, nothing crazy, nothing huge in that sense. So it'll be kind of fun to monitor and watch going forward. Obviously, something big can happen when a running back injury goes down. That can obviously open up the floodgates in that sense, which is why I love that we went to bidding. I mean, think about, I mean, it almost seems like an old relic going back to the old waiver priority age. I think bidding just makes it so
yeah.
much more fun, so much more dynamic, kind of gives everyone a shot
Yeah,
at it. But
I think I'm in one or two leagues that still holds on to it for whatever reason.
really,
It drives me nuts. I'm like, it makes no sense to keep the bad teams up there and they hold on to it for however long they want to,
yeah,
so they get the guy that they need. But
yeah,
it's just more fun to have everybody involved. Have at least feel like you at least have a chance to get these players, because it sucks if in a situation like yours last year when your
yeah,
team is struggling and you're sitting there with someone holding on to waiver priority number one, two, three,
yeah,
and you're sitting there unable to pick up anybody at that point. So
sure,
it definitely
yeah.
hurts for sure, but the fab is where it's at.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll kind of monitor it going forward. Again, I think, like you mentioned earlier, crazy that not a single running back was picked up after week 1. I think that's probably, if I'd have to say, never happened before. And if it has happened before, it's maybe been one side of the 10 or
Yeah.
11 years we've been doing this. I can't
Yeah.
imagine another time where
Peter
that's
picked
happened
up Gainwell, but that's after waivers and run.
after.
I
Yeah,
don't, yeah,
not the in
that
the
it was
initial
just
waivers.
free game. So at that point, it is what it is. But
Right. Yep. All right. Well, with that being said, kind of after taking a look at the waiver wire, let's look at some other player movement here before we start looking into kind of the weekly matchups and what we think may or may not happen. We did have a couple trades early and often. We did have a couple trades this week. Let's take a look at them. Okay. One of them involved you, one of them involved me. Simple as that, right? I mean, how about it? And there was, I think that was
that
it, because
was
the
it.
other one.
Yeah, that was it.
The other ones were preseason, before, a little bit after the draft, before the season started. So, first one, I'll break it down for you. You traded Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, the Washington Commanders running back that did pretty well, 82 yards on the ground last week, a touchdown, not a ton of carries, but did see, I believe, I mean, and this is crazy too, and maybe this is what made you want to push off him. Just pulling up his profile, he had 19 snaps. So whenever he was in the game, he was getting the ball at more than a 50% clip, but he was only in on less than a third of the snaps. So maybe that moves up after this week. Maybe it doesn't, based off that. But obviously got off to a nice start. 14 points, not too shabby. And you traded for, do I dare say, a more proven commodity in Isaiah Pacheco, despite a little bit of injury concerns last year and this and that. But he is, the quote unquote starter out there in Kansas City. And maybe they go to the run game more with some of these injuries and stuff going on. But it's not like Isaiah Pacheco is like a household name, first or second round pick. So tell me, why'd you do this? And secondly, was this more of a sell high on merit, or was this more of a safety net kind of move? Do you think, there's more of a higher ceiling one way or the other? Kind of break down your mind on why you did this. And just a one for one, just straight up, I like this guy better than the
Yeah,
other. Kind of break it down for me.
yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it came down to just a safety move. I do think that Krosky Merritt can become the starter in Washington. The starter, I use that term loosely because I do think that as long as Eckler is still
Yeah.
healthy, he'll be utilized in that offense. He's going to be out there more often than not. As you can see, he played on just a third of the snaps. He had 10 carries through his 19 snaps. But with my running back situation, and after watching the Monday Night Football game and seeing that literally, and I sat there and told you, this is a Mason drive. This is an Aaron Jones drive. This is a Mason drive. This is an Aaron
Yeah.
Jones drive.
They literally
If they're
almost flat back and forth. I mean,
it,
literally flat
yeah.
back and forth.
So
Yeah.
if I'm getting that out of Aaron Jones, who's my running back two right as of week one, and he gets stuck in a drive that's 3-0, and then it's Jordan Mason's next drive, and he takes the ball and they run it for 8 minutes. That to me is too. Not that I won't deploy Aaron Jones because I still think that he has upside with his catching. I just need
Needed
more.
more of a safety net. Needed more of
Need
a
more of
sure
a
thing.
safety net that I can rely on to just get opportunities. Pacheco didn't really do great. I mean, he was pretty piss poor week one, but he played a good defense in the Chargers. So I feel like I can't really say he's down in the dumps by any means, but
Right.
yeah, more so just a safety net for me. I just felt like Krosky Merritt, I wasn't going to be able to move him for a top tier running back, but I was going to be able to move him for a running back that I know can get 10, 12, 15 touches a
Yep.
game. However it works out, it works out. But I just know I could not rock with Jones being my running back too. I will deploy Jones in my flex, absolutely, but I needed more security there at my RB position.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, me and you've talked about this. I mean, every damn TV show in the nation regarding football talks about this after week one. But it's like, how much do you value week one? I mean, how much do you over go? Oh, do you go crazy and go, oh my God, this is blowing up? Do you say, hey, I trust that? Like I told you, I think someone said it perfectly on the air. They were like, do we really think the Steelers have one of the best offenses in the league? No. Do we think do we think they have one of the worst defenses in the league? No. Do we, so it's like, how much can you trust from week one based on what we saw, right? And it's, again, one of those things. Chiefs are usually not playing from behind. Is Pacheco usually going to be a 12 to 15 touchback? You'd like to think he will. Is Merritt going to do that? We have no idea, right? We do not know. I noticed Washington obviously had Eckler in a lot, obviously on passing down situations. You mentioned that as well. Eckler's going to be in kind of more as that pass catching back. Tonight, will be a big test, right? If Merritt goes off and drops another even 14-point performance, you're probably going to be like, didn't love that. Don't love seeing him being traded.
Yeah,
But at the same time, going against the best defense in the league, he might be in on 20% of snaps,
yeah,
get 12 yards, and he
that,
has 1.2 points. So
yeah,
it's fun to see how the league operates after week one and seeing if they overvalue or undervalue someone or overreact or underreact. And it's kind of interesting to see just it all take place because I agree with you. Pacheco seems like the safer guy, better, both good teams, but arguably the better team. Although I do think Kansas City's in trouble. But goal line guy, you would think more so over Hunt and stuff like that. So we'll see, right? There's a lot of unknown in Merritt. Maybe he's the guy. I remember sending that message right before the season started that, oh wow, he's fourth on the depth chart, which based on playing time, he kind of was, but he definitely made the most of it. So kind of an interesting trade there. Tough to grade, but I do know we like grading trades here. I will say as of right now, I will say B plus for you and B minus for Drake. And I don't even mean that in like a bad way for Drake because I do think this may sound crazy. I do think right now Merritt does have a higher ceiling because of the unknown. Um, so I think that could be safe to say that is the case there. But also I think Drake kind of needed to make that move. But the thing, and we'll look at again, we're not breaking down teams totally, but right now Drake has Merritt and Eckler in his starting lineup.
yeah. That's something that came to mind. First off, that coming into Thursday and knowing they played the Packers, to
That's
me, I'm
tough.
like, if he has a bad game or goes into the game and has 19 snaps and gains 16 yards, Drake's not pulling the trigger on the Pacheco move at that point by any
Yeah.
means. Going
And that's what I'm
into the
surprised he did
yeah,
it this week. I mean, not. I mean, who knows?
yeah.
Who knows?
So
If,
so
yeah,
things had to kind of just come together perfectly because Eckler being questionable was why he also had inklings of just getting Merritt because now he has both.
sure. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to have both in those situations, and I'm very vocal about that myself. If I have one part of the committee. I don't want to acquire the other part of the committee because I'm hoping that my guy gets the bulk of those carries. I don't want
Or
it
at
to
least
pick
not
and
starting them
choose.
both, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want it to start them both. I don't even want to have to try to pick the right one every week. So I'll just live with one side of it that I feel strongly about. So Drake having Eckler and Merritt, who knows if this could be a pairing that you can play every week? We don't know yet, but that's a situation that he has to deal with. And it could, I mean, it's safety for him as well, but at the same time will cause headaches for sure.
Yeah, and but it's also something like we said, they play Green Bay tonight, and as much as I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I could also see a world where they combine for less than 10 points. I mean, I'm dead serious when I say that. I mean, I can literally see a world where Merritt gets 2 points, Eckler gets 4 points, and then that's it. I mean, that who knows? Maybe they score a touchdown on the first drive, and I look like an idiot saying that, but I think there is a realm where that is possible. I guess you could say that about anything, but going against that defense, which a lot of people this week are saying is now the best defense in the league based off what they showed against Detroit last week, that's tough. That is tough. But
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what'll happen there? Let's take a look at the other trade. Obviously, it was a trade that was involved with me. Another, not, well, I was about to say 1-for-1. It was actually a 2-for-1. I traded Devontae Smith to Kyle for Keenan Allen and Michael Pittman. So all receivers in this one. What was your take on that before I give you kind of why I did it?
First two things that come to mind are you lost Jaleel McLaughlin, and that's going to hurt quite a bit because he's such a touted running back.
Right. Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll give you the floor here in a second. I want to know how easy it was to get this done.
Yeah. Well, I'll
B,
say this. I'll at
okay,
least answer that for you. It was the easiest Kyle trade I've ever done in my life.
okay. So to
When
me,
it
it's
comes to baseball or football, and that doesn't mean it was like
no,
instant, like I'm accepting, like oh my god. It was just like it was like a message or two, and then it was done. Not that I don't mind the back and forth sometimes,
no,
but
yeah.
I was like, wow,
It's
never had this happen
it's
before.
to me, it felt like a trade that you had all the leverage per se. You weren't necessarily using any. You weren't trying to kind of strong arm him into anything or persuade him into anything. He did that on his own because he had Jalen Hurts. He wants the stack of Devontae and Jalen Hurts. I understand that from his perspective. I get that you're not going to get AJ Brown for this price. I don't think. However, this is I won't say a rare occurrence. This is a situation where I feel like Kyle overpaid for this a stack. And I get that it can help you down the road. But seeing what I saw coming out of week one and knowing Kyle like I do, I'm very surprised he was willing to give up Keenan Allen and Pittman for Smith. Those two looked productive. They looked like they hadn't missed a beat. Keenan looked like he was back in LA 4 years ago playing that offense. And Michael Pittman, this looked like he was coming off of his into his sophomore year when he was out there catching, I mean, like 100 balls or whatever it was, and scoring. Those two are wide receiver. It's a wide receiver one and a wide receiver, I would say, two in this situation in Keenan in an offense that has, I mean, for the Colts, a lot to prove. They're going to have to, do quite a bit to remain in games. Um,
Sure.
but having Daniel Jones and having a pass catcher like Pittman is pretty perfect. It's a perfect pairing in the football world for sure. And then Keenan going back with Justin Herbert, they on the same page, haven't missed a beat there either. Those two players to me are players I have no problem deploying in my starting lineup every week, no matter the matchup. They're not matchup proof by any means, but there aren't names that I would have sitting on my bench either. Like
Right.
they're very highly touted receivers in my mind. Coming out of the draft, I wanted Keenan. I didn't get him. Pittman, not the biggest fan of coming out of last year, but he's proven me wrong so far week one. I just feel like Kyle saw the stack. He wanted the stack. He paid what he felt was fair for the stack, and that's fine. But I feel like he may have overpaid a bit. I would rather have the Keenan Allen and Pittman side of things, even if I had Hurts on my team.
Right. Yeah. And there was part of me that kind of saw the trade, and I almost immediately, it was almost immediately one of those like like no brainer. Like I'm just gonna, oh yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah.
hit the accept button quick. Um, but I did kind of second guess and think about it for a little bit because I don't think anyone would disagree that Devontae Smith can be the best receiver of those three, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's obviously the reason for the 2v1. I mean, that kind of breaks down for that. But here's the way I look at it too. If I had to put my thumb on it right now and say which of these receivers is going to have the best year, I'll say Devontae Smith. But and I'm not going to go back 5 years. I'll go back the last three full seasons. Devontae Smith has 3,128 yards. Keenan or Pittman has 2,885. So it's about 200 off, which is not significant. That's not a ton. Devontae Smith has about double the touchdowns, though. So he's definitely more of a touchdown threat. Here's my thing, though. I've actually never been a huge Pittman guy, but over the years, I've kind of grown to like him. He had 109 catches in 2023 with 1,100 yards. I feel better about Pittman this year with Daniel Jones as his quarterback, believe it or not, than I did last year with Anthony Richardson and the Joe Flacco and all these kinds of things of the world, and the Matt Ryans in the past of the world. So I think the floor of Pittman, and he's shown this in his career. Last year was his floor, and that's 800 yards and three touchdowns. He's never been a big touchdown guy. He's never scored 10 in his career. Um, but if 803 is the floor, and then I look at what Keenan did last year. And again, we could argue that was not the greatest situation in Chicago. Probably expect a little bit more, this and that. Missed a couple games. He had 750 and seven. So he actually had a better year than Michael Pittman last year. I think going back to LA again, they're not going to throw the ball a ton. I get that. But to think Keenan Allen maybe is the two there, which I still think he is over Quentin Johnson. I could see him getting a seven, kind of mirroring that, a 750 and seven season. So if I can get 800 to 900 yards of Pittman, 800-ish yards of Keenan Allen, and throw in 10 touchdowns combined from the two of them, I see where Kyle did it because Devontae Smith could probably get 1,010 on his own with a good season. But at the same time, I just lost Xavier Worthy for who knows how long. I was thin at receiver. To me, maybe it doesn't make perfect sense overall, but for my team, as where I was at already after week one, to me, it was almost a no-brainer. To me, who knows how it'll work out in the grand scheme of things, but I don't think Pittman and Devontae Smith are that far off either. I don't.
No, no, and I do. I understand. Like I say, Kyle overpaid for the stack, and I still stand by that. But at the same time, Kyle's depth at receiver was pretty deep. He
Yeah.
did have the ability to do something like this and kind of not think anything of it. So I understand creating the stack is important. I understand you are pretty deep at receiver, but at the same time, it it is a trade that helps both of you in the situations you're in now. I'm not sitting here saying it was bad for Kyle. It just wasn't really a move I thought Kyle would make coming out of week one.
Me neither. Yeah, I didn't think so either. And for him to, which is not typically of it, like what he does is he bought low on a player. I mean, yeah, sometimes he goes after the injured players or this or that, and
Mm-hmm.
the baseball stuff. But Keenan Allen had a good week. Michael Pittman had a good week, and he sold kind of high on them both and went after Devontae Smith, which makes sense because Keenan Allen's 33 years old. I mean, he could end up with 400 yards receiving on the year, 500 yards receiving the year. We
Yeah.
wouldn't. Oh well, he's 34 years old. That's expected. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this one plays out over the scheme of things. But I feel good about it just because I felt like I almost had to do it. I mean, both these guys are in my lineup this week. You know what I mean? Like I kind of felt like I had to make that choice after Xavier Worthy went down, and I didn't really have anything after that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Overall, though, I don't like grading my own trades, but grade the trade.
I mean, I would say it would be an A for you. I would give
Okay.
Kyle still a B minus. It gives him the stack. I love me a good stack, so I'm not gonna sit here and shit on that. I just think he could have probably gotten away with a little bit less, but at the same time, again, he had the depth, and it was an easy deal to be made. So no harm, no
Yeah.
foul for him either there.
Well, it's funny too because we always say like overreactions or underreactions to week one. Remember, I did not love Kyle's team coming out of the draft. He did not love his team coming out of the draft. The CMC news, uh-oh. This going on, uh-oh. But honestly, I take a look at his team. If again, huge caveat if CMC stays healthy. But when you throw in what Javonte Williams did week one, and by the way, I'm still not a believer in him being the guy there in Dallas. Yeah, he got in a couple touchdowns, but he still averaged like 3 yards a carry. Um, Jalen Hurts, CMC, Javonte Williams. I mean, listen to these receivers. And Jigba, Brian Thomas Jr., who only had a catch again, but it was for a touchdown. Devontae Smith, he's got Jordan Mason, who had a pretty darn solid game. Tucker Kraft, who only had 2 catches but a touchdown. Hey, maybe his team's turning it around. Charbonnet on his bench, RJ Harvey on his bench. So hey, maybe Kyle's doing his thing again where I just don't like he probably likes when I don't like his team because he makes the playoffs no matter what. So
Yeah.
he probably likes that kind of counterpoint there. All right. So that kind of does it for the trades this week. Obviously, as more trades come in throughout the weeks, we'll talk about them. Like I said, when we get like maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, we might even kind of do a little bit like what does this team need to do? You're 2-3, or you're 3-2, or maybe you're 1-4. What do you need to do to kind of salvage or kind of put your team over the top? We'll kind of have fun with that moving forward. But we're going to kind of get towards the back half of our show here, and let's look at some of these week 2 matchups. What we're going to do is we're not really going to predict who wins or loses. It's fantasy. We're not going to act like we're experts in that sense of, this dude I think is going to be projected for 12 and really get 15. We're not going to dive that deep into it, but let's go matchup by matchup here. Team Iceland, Fear the Herbinator. Give me an X factor on each team this week. Who do you think needs to have a big game for them to win?
Oof, okay. I'll look at Buddy first, the newcomer. He's looking for his first win here. Again, these lineups again may change, but this is what we're working off of with what we have going into Thursday night football. I mean, Lamar had a good game last week, so I can't really knock that by any means. It's a matchup based thing. It's heavy on a certain game, that Detroit Chicago game for Buddy. And I feel like DeAndre Swift would be my X factor, because if he has a good game and he can find the end zone and the Bears can kind of keep a lead or just have the game remain competitive, you're
Mm-hmm.
keeping Jamison Williams in the game, keeping Laporta in the game, keeping Swift in the game. Those three
He's got
guys
3 people
remain
in that game
relevant.
alone.
Yeah, they remain relevant. So I feel like if Jamison and Laporta find themselves in a position where they're playing well, it's not going to be good for Swift. So I feel like Swift has to be the X factor for Buddy. On Dave's side, it's easy to me. Travis Kelce. You have to
Okay.
have your Kittle replacement show up and show out for you week 2. It's easy to replace Kittle when you have Kelce. So Dave kind of got the good end of the stick there.
Yeah.
But now your flex is open. You have Calvin Austin in there now. You just picked up. I think that Kelce has to prove to you that he's your tight end, that you can move forward with him for the next couple of weeks. The Chiefs in general have to do that, but I feel like for Dave, that's his X factor.
Mahomes already on the bench. How about that? Mahomes already on the
Yeah,
bench
I mean, I'm surprised he
for good
didn't
old Herbie.
play. Didn't play Herbert last week, but he saw the Raiders. He saw Herbie. He says, "Let's do it."
Yep, exactly. Kind of interesting, yeah. And obviously Kittle went out for Dave, so Kelsey he did get both. So Kelsey's obviously, I mean, that worked out well for him that he could still throw Kelsey in there. My X factors, Swift was actually my initial kind of thought, but I'm actually going to go with Marquise Brown. He was huge last week, 10 catches on 16 targets, but I mean, for lack of a better word, outside of Travis Kelsey, he is the number one there now, and he did not get to play a ton with Patrick Mahomes last year. So, but we know he's electric. We know he can light the defense up. We know he can put the defense on their toes with his speed. But going against that Philly defense is not going to be easy. And I'll be honest, KC versus Philly. I've said it. I've kind of said it this week after KC lost Worthy and kind of what they. I am a little worried about Kansas City. I'm not saying they won't be a playoff team. I'm not saying, but we're so used to them winning 12, 13 games. I'm a little worried about Kansas City, and I could see that Philadelphia defense right up there with Green Bay as being one of the best in the league. And I could see Philly kind of shutting down Kansas City, for lack of a better word, and that might include Marquise Brown. So I think Marquise Brown is definitely that X factor in that game. He needs him to do well. Obviously, you mentioned Williams, Laporta, and Swift are all in the same game, so he's definitely going to be keeping an eye on that one. But I'm going to go with Marquise Brown on Buddy's side. On Dave's side, I liked your pick. I do think that's important, but I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors because, again, Neighbors really didn't get a lot of action last week until later in the game. He was not targeted a ton. He actually was looking very, very, and it's not like he looked himself bad, but the offense looks awful right now with Russell Wilson. All the narrative in the media this week is how they have to go to Jackson Dart, or even I heard at least go to Jameis
Yeah,
Winston,
at
because if
least
you're a Malik
yes.
Neighbors owner, you'd probably love if they went to Jameis Winston because he's going to chuck it deep and just go to him. But I'm a little worried about Neighbors going against Dallas. Is Deron Bland officially out? Do we know that?
I don't know. I haven't checked myself, but I mean, if he is, it's helpful for him. But if not, I
Yeah,
mean, like that, the Eagles didn't really do much do the air
sure.
against them. So
Yeah.
neighbors situation is much different.
Yeah, so I think Neighbors is the big one there. Russell Wilson, for lack of a better word, I hate to say it, I'm not saying the Giants are good by any means, but he just looks washed. I just don't think he's got it anymore. And Neighbors obviously is a guy that will get a little theatrical if he's not getting the ball in his hands. So you need him to get to close to that projection of 13, if not more, because yeah, that's my X factor there. So let's move on to the next matchup.
All right, here we've got two one-win teams. So someone's going to catch an L this week. Peter and Chad. Who's your X factor on each side of the matchup here?
Tough, tough, tough. I'm going to say for Chad's side, it's got to be Pearsall to me because Brock Purdy's out. Obviously, CMC was dealing with the injuries. Kittle's out. Pearsall's role has definitely elevated, and obviously, fantasy owners are probably thinking, "Hey, that might be a good thing." But at the same time, you know, make or break it right now. Pearsall's going to have to do it against a pretty bad New Orleans team, so they get a little bit of a break going against competition that might not be up to their par. But they got to kind of survive while Purdy and Kittle are out. I think they're going to try to scratch. And this is one that you probably look at as you got to win this one if Purdy's going to be out for an extended amount of time. So I think Pearsall's kind of the big one on that end. And on the other end, I would probably say, honestly, I don't love him being in the lineup. I'm not saying he won't be solid, but I got to say Travis Hunter. I mean, again, I don't know. Cincinnati's defense is usually pretty solid. I know people are skeptical about it this year. Obviously, the team still looked rough in a week 1 game last week. They escaped with a win. But I'm going to go Travis Hunter because I just still don't know. I know he played a lot of offensive snaps this week, but they also said he's going to play more defensive snaps this week. Does that affect the ratio at all? I don't know. I would still be a little wary and hesitant of just being like, he's a lock in my lineup every week at this point. So I think Travis Hunter could be a guy that gets 2 points. He could light the world on fire and get 20. So I'm going to say he's the X factor.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I do like your pick with Pearsall. I won't obviously steal that pick by any means. I think that for Chad, the health of Brock Bowers, I would say, is the X factor here. But with active players, I want to go with Nick Chubb. I think
Yep.
that Nick Chubb, we saw last week, he is the quote unquote bell cow for that Texans team. He was the only running back getting significant carries. Pierce had two, Ogunbowale, or however you say his name, I think he had two or three. Woody Marks had two himself. It was Chubb and Chubb alone. They trust him. I think Nixon's going to be gone for quite a bit. You're against a Tampa Bay defense that isn't bad, but you got your weird, and we said this last week, but now this week we get Monday Night Football times two at a 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock game. Will you be
Oh, I didn't
awake
even
for the
notice that.
entire 10 o'clock game? Probably not, because that game's not ending till 1 in the morning. I
Yeah.
will be just because it's football, whatever. And I have players in it, I believe. But Chubb to me is the X factor for Chad's side. Peters is simple, clear cut. I mean, I can go easy and go Jamar, go Joe Burrow. Those guys were bad last week. I think DK Metcalf, it's a revenge game. It's Seattle. You want to show out.
Yeah.
If
Nice.
anyone's going to carry your squad this week, it's going to be him.
Yeah, I mean that's a great one. And is that Pittsburgh offense really like lighting on all cylinders like they were last week? That's a big one. Yeah, that's a fun one. And honestly, again, that Monday night game starting that late, like Chargers Raiders, like that's a fun one to watch. I mean, like the
Yeah,
Raiders, even if they're not a great team, like that's a fun team. So what the hell is the NFL doing with that?
I
All
don't
right.
know, but I'm okay with them scheduling it
Yeah.
at least with a little bit of a buffer.
There you go. All right, next matchup here we have the 1-0 Deflower Worthy Christian and then the 0-1 Jordan Heineke Big Homie Cornbread. Projections show this game should be pretty close. The last game, by the way, was almost an identical tie on projections. This one shows it being within about 5 points. Start us off. What are your X factors here?
All right. For Kyle, I mean, again, how the lineup is, I'm going with Jordan Mason. I think that if, and it sucks because I have the other half of this committee, but Jordan Mason looked solid for this team last week against Chicago. He gives them a change of pace, and I think that if this team wants to be consistent, they'll have him out there the same amount as they did last week, which is unfortunate again for me. But I feel like that's the guy that sticks out on this team. The rest of these guys, you saw Jamonte play well last week. You saw, you have McCaffrey and Jake, but Brian Thomas, household names. Jordan Mason to me is the guy I think needs to have a good week for Kyle to propel into the next level. For Jordan, it's tough. It's tough. I'm going Fields.
Okay.
I'm going
Yeah.
Fields. He had
Yeah.
a great game last week against Pittsburgh.
Good one.
Pittsburgh's defense isn't bad. You're playing Buffalo. Thankfully, you're in New York and you're not in Buffalo itself. But to keep up with the Bills, we saw this last week. You're going to need to score a heck of a lot of points, and Fields is the first option there when it comes to facilitating that offense. Obviously, being a quarterback, but just with the ability of running and passing the ball consistently. If there's going to be points put up on the Buffalo side, Fields has to match that. So I feel like if you're going to count on somebody at QB this week that isn't one of those top tier guys, you can't get any better than Fields.
Yeah. Those are great X factors there. I'm gonna go with on Kyle's side. I am gonna go with Javonte Williams. Like I want to see him do it again. He's going and I don't think Dallas looked bad last week. I really don't. I think for a lot of people thinking Dallas is gonna be bad this year, I am among them. I still think they will be. I think they're gonna be down in a lot of games. They're gonna have to throw the ball a lot. I want to see Javonte Williams do it again. I hate to say he fell into the end zone a couple times, but it's not like he necessarily like looked great. The last couple of years, he's had under 4 yards per carry. And Kyle probably doesn't care if he looks great as long as he's falling into the end zone. But I got to see it again. And they are going against a team that they should be favored against. They should be favored against the Giants. If there's a few games on the schedule this year where they should theoretically light up the scoreboard, this would be one of them. So I'm going to go with Javonte Williams on Kyle's side. And then on Jordan's side, Fields is a great one. I don't want to say the whole running back room, but I will say this. After last week, I would have felt really good going into the season of Jordan's running backs. And again, I don't want to over exaggerate week one, but a lot of those guys struggled. I mean, Jalen Warren did get double digit points, but Kenneth Walker kind of looked like the backup. Jahmyr Gibbs barely averaged 2 yards a touch. I don't remember exactly what Hubbard's stat line was, but I don't think, I mean, the Panthers weren't good. I can't imagine Hubbard did all that great. Clicking on his
He did
name right here.
score. He did
He did
score.
score. So he did get double digits there. Yeah. So he had, oh, wow, 57 yards rushing, 32 receiving. So he actually wasn't too bad. But we kind of mentioned this, and I'm actually going to bring it up here. Not that yards per carry matter in fantasy, right? As long as you fall in the end zone, this and that. But I remember me and you talking about this when we were looking at all the box scores. We were looking at how many running backs even averaged like 4 yards a
Yeah.
carry. And it really wasn't many at all this week. I mean, a lot of like Kenneth Walker, 2 yard, and these are all guys, by the way, that had over 10 touches. I'll actually start with a dude with 9 because he's a big one. Jahmyr Gibbs, 2.1 yards a carry. Kenneth Walker on 10 carries, 2 yards a carry. Tyrone Tracy, 2.4. Jalen Warren, 3.4. David Montgomery on 11 carries, 2.3. Where's a big one? The Bajan Robinson one. Where was he? Um, I'd have to find it. But John Robinson again. Oh, there it is. Exactly 2 yards a carry on 12 attempts. There was like nobody that even like etched out for the most part outside of the Derrick Henrys, even Ashton Genty on 19 carries. This should scare me a little bit. On 19 carries last week, had 38 yards. Another one of my running backs should scare me a little bit. Chase Brown on 21 carries had 43 yards, 2 yards a carry. Christian McCaffrey, 22 carries, 69 yards. So again, I know it doesn't matter on fantasy as long as you're getting the yards and the touchdowns, but I always look at yards per carry to just see how effective you're being. And man, was there a lot of ineffective running backs last week. But to make my point, I'm going to say the X factor for Jordan this week is going to be Kenneth Walker because I think we need to see what that role is in Seattle. Is Charbonnet taking over? That was a lot of the rumblings kind of, preseason. Hey, Charbonnet is going to take more of that role, take more of that role. Kenneth Walker did not look good. So going against a good defense in Pittsburgh, or at least we think it's a good defense in Pittsburgh, I'm really curious how that Seattle-Pittsburgh game goes and to see what Kenneth Walker's role looks like. Because, hey, I have him in the keeper. I do want to see what that role looks like.
That's
All
fair.
right.
All right. Moving on to your matchup here with Dana. You're
Woo!
looking for your first win. Projections are very close. You're slated to lose apparently by just over 3 points. So you have to feel okay about projections here. But when it comes to X factors, what do you think they look like for Dana and yourself?
Man, it's tough. Like I said, I did just bring up Brown and GNT not looking very good in their first game, so that scares me a little bit. But I'm just gonna flat out say I think tonight's a big one. I mean, if Jaden Daniels going against theoretically the best defense in the league that a lot of people are claiming them to be, and they might be. We'll see more tonight. I think Washington's a good test, but Jaden Daniels, man, I mean, I drafted him early for a reason, right? I need him to put up essentially 20 plus points a week. If Jaden Daniels puts anything up less than 20 points a week, I'm looking at it like, I drafted you high for that reason of being that difference maker guy. So I'm going to say Jaden Daniels on my side. There was part of me a little bit that did want to say like Keon Coleman. I don't want to say it was a fluke, but let's see what he does in week 2. But I'll say Jaden Daniels on my end. On on Dana's end, the one that scares me the most is probably kind of tough, but I'll just say Derrick Henry. I mean, I could see a lot of matchups this week actually being a little bit tougher on Dana. Taylor going against Denver, Tyreek Hill, what the heck was that week 1? Terry McLaurin again going against a good defense, right? So maybe they counteract with Jaden Daniels. But I'm going to say Derrick Henry because I think that's a matchup where you're kind of hoping Derrick Henry gets 20 plus carries, 100 yards, and another couple scores, and you're feeling pretty good. Not saying he won't do that, but I don't know if the word needs to do that is right, but I think Henry really is probably has to get close to 20 points this week.
Yeah, which is fair. On Dana's side, I feel like the aforementioned Tyreek Hill has to get back to at least some shell of himself. You can't keep him not uninvolved in the offense for too long, or again, he's someone who may cause a stink for sure. I think that they just get back to that. They feed him the ball a lot in a game that I think is going to have more points than we think. On your end, I would have went Jaden Daniels as well against Green Bay. It's tough. You're not going to bench him by any means. You drafted
Right.
him high. He's locked in. Outside of that, I'm going with a new pickup of yours. I'm going to go with Pittman.
Hey, hey.
Coming off of his performance last week, you're playing Denver, solid DB room there. So it's going to be a tougher matchup for sure. But Pittman, Keenan, both guys are in here to kind of replace that worthy hole that was created. I feel like Pittman has to show you something this week against a Denver defense that is not bad by any means. It's very good actually. So I'm going
Yeah.
Pittman and I'm going with Tyreek for
And
Dana.
you know what? I think that's a really interesting matchup this week too. I know we don't really talk. I know we're sticking for the most part strictly fantasy, but Denver versus Indianapolis to me is a really, really fun one to watch this week because obviously a lot of people are riding the Denver train this year. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, this and that. Bo Nix looked awful last week. He just did. But that defense is solid. The running game looked good. Indianapolis, I think, on the other end of the perspective, looked really good last week. Maybe against maybe one of the worst teams in the league in the Dolphins, based on what we saw. But I think that's a really good prove it game. Like, who's really ready to come out and stick it out and go 2-0? So
Yeah,
I'm really curious to see how that one shakes out. All right. Next matchup is I know it'll be different on your screen, but it is yours on my screen. So I don't know if you want to talk
and
about yours next.
let's jump
Um,
there and then we so let's jump here. We got
yep.
me, we got Spelly, we got me apparently losing to the lowest scoring winning team last week by
I
a
think you're
fair
the lowest
amount.
projected score this week.
Yeah, let's go ahead and not look at that. X factors here. What do you got?
This one interest. Oh man. I mean, I know we mentioned Aaron Jones earlier with his role. I'm not going to quite go there. Do I dare say Drake May? I mean, again, obviously you waited on a quarterback late in the draft. You're like, all right, I'm going to wait on this. Not that he played bad last week. 15 points. I don't want to say is about what you expect from him. That is a little bit on the lower end of the quarterback. I mean, he ranked 18th, right? So it's a little bit below average. But I think again, Drake May, Daniel Jones just put up a shit ton of points against Miami. So if Drake May for some reason puts up another like again 15 points, 14 points, that can't be encouraging. So against a matchup like that, with how bad Miami looked, you might even be looking at it like, man, maybe May can break 20 points for me, and that could be a big difference. So I'm gonna go May for you. For Spelly, who's starting off 1-0, we both liked his team, I think, a lot coming into this year. At least I know I did. I ranked him really, really high. I'm going to go with, ooh, you know what? This week's game's going to be, or tonight's game's going to be big. I'm going to say Debo Samuel because kind of reminded me of the Debo Samuel of old last week, getting a few carries, getting some yards on the ground, scoring in the air on the touchdown. Obviously, Jaden Daniels has quite a few weapons, and he's going to need them all tonight. So I was close to picking Pickens, no pun intended there, but I'm gonna go with Debo.
All right. Well, I'm thankful you didn't pick Pickens. I'll go right to left here because Pickens was my pick. I
Okay.
think that he had a down week last week. I mind you that the offense ran through Javante and CD, and CD had a ton of targets. I think Pickens this week gets more involved in the offense. I know it. He had a full camp. It's not like he is, still getting acquainted with the offense, but I just feel like seeing what you saw with CD and how he, I would say, even though he had a couple drops, dominated last week against the Eagles, defenses will kind of look more towards him now and give Pickens more of an out to put up some points. So I feel like Pickens for Spelly is a big piece. For me, um, I Jones is someone I would look at too, but I think that this has to be a get right game for Nico. Nico had what 2 grabs, 3 grabs last week. I mean, that offense isn't bad, and Nico is one of the top tier receivers in the league that I drafted myself because he was going to get that fair share of targets. He's someone you could look at and be like, yeah, he can get 8 to 10 grabs, 75, 80 yards, and you're happy with it. Kind of a Puka-esque type performance that Puka had last week. It's Monday Night Football. You're playing Tampa Bay. Drake London didn't do stupid well against them last week, so I'm hoping that Nico can find a way to carve out a good week. I think that he is the guy I'm relying on the most this week.
Now I know, as you mentioned, this is Thursday, so depending on when people watch this, whether it is tonight, Friday, Saturday, right now, Jordan does not have David Montgomery in his lineup. Obviously, David Montgomery's been a pretty decent fantasy player, countable player over the last few years. He's a Detroit Lions fan himself. Maybe that tells you a little something. Do you see a spot where you would put him over in, or do you think that's the right decision?
I see a spot where you're absolutely crazy because this is not Jordan's team. It's Matthew Spellman's
Oh
team.
man, damn it.
So
Yeah,
the
Spelly, you're
narrative
right. So
there
he's
means
not a Lions fan.
nothing. The narrative there means nothing.
I don't know why I thought
However,
Jordan.
to answer your question, no. I think that
Okay.
I would rather play Debo, and again, it's just a fantasy tip that I follow. You guys don't have to. If you have guys playing Thursday, put them in the positions that they play. So your flex right there is not
Yeah, because
Debo. You can
yeah,
maneuver that however you feel like later on in the week. That's
yep.
just a little tidbit that
Otherwise, you're
I've
stuck in that.
I've taken over, over that time. So then that's just how I operate. But I wouldn't take out Debo. I wouldn't take out Pickens, and then the two RBs you have, I'm trusting them over Montgomery himself. So I feel like, well, I have some interest in Montgomery, and I tried to get Montgomery just a little bit. I don't think there's a spot for him on his team. I don't think that right now in the lineup.
Yeah, and I
Despite
agree
him
with
getting a
you.
good
The only
amount of
one I would
carries.
think of is maybe Pickens. But I like I said, I still like Pickens this year. And again, really going against that Giants team, that does seem a favorable matchup. So if Pickens is going to do something, you would
Yep.
think it would be this week. And Chicago, for the most part, until more later in the second half, did shut down the run. So I agree with you. I probably would keep Montgomery on the bench. All right,
All right.
last matchup, right?
Yeah, closing us out is Drake and Tyler. A very, very closely projected matchup. Drake projected to lose, Tyler projected to win. Someone needs to win because we can't have a tie, I don't think. Although I'm sure we probably can. I just hope that we don't.
Yeah,
Um, with the X Factors here, again, I know this is a common theme for it being tonight on
yeah.
Drake's side of things.
The
I
running
won't
back room of
I
Washington, right?
I won't do it. I won't do it.
Okay.
I'm going with my boy Katiar McMillan against Arizona. He looked good last week. He looked, despite how many poorly thrown balls you can think Bryce Young threw, he was able to make something out of nothing a lot of the time. And I feel like this has to be a get right game for Carolina. Coming out of last week, defensively they were awful. Offensively, Tetiora looked good. Chuba looked not bad. Bryce Young a little worse than that. I just feel like this has to be a game where they get things going, and Tetiora is going to be a product of that. So I feel like for Drake, that's a bright spot for him. For Tyler, I'm locked in on AJ Brown. You can't have the same performance you had last week. One catch, 8 yards. You can't. You just can't. If you see something like that, to me, if you see a game where AJ Brown has less than 5 grabs, less than 40 yards, and that's 40 yards is almost nothing for him because he's a big play type of guy.
Yep.
You have to be a little bit concerned. I'm not obviously sitting here saying ship him off, he's damaged goods, but you want to see him perform in this game. I know they're a run heavy team, but um, he's too good of a player not to get involved. So I feel like 2 consecutive weeks of just very limited amount of yards and grabs, it's cause for concern.
Yeah, those are good ones. You didn't do it, but I will. And this might be cheating, but I'm just going to say the running back room in Washington because I mean it's ballsy. We mentioned it earlier. I won't totally repeat myself, but it's ballsy starting two running backs on the same team in a week, especially going against the defense they're going against. I mean, that could literally be a week killer after one
Yep.
game. I mean, it
Yep.
could be. Now, I would say I'd feel good. I would feel good if they could combine for 20 points tonight. And maybe one of them goes off for 20 on their own. That who knows, right? That
Yep.
remains to be seen. But if I'm Drake, I feel good if they can come out combined 20. So, and that's
All right.
not really a high bar there.
Now,
So I'm gonna say the
with
Washington running back
with
room
that
there.
being said, before you get into Tyler's X
Sure.
Factor pick and closing us out, let's just take a quick look at Drake's bench. Is there anybody here that you trust over playing Eckler or Krosky Merritt?
Um, I mean, I would definitely I mean, I would not start both running backs, so I would definitely either put Tillman in, Cup, or even Mims. I would do any of those really over them. Now
Okay.
Mims obviously didn't do shit week one, so in a safe bet, if you're telling me, hey, you got to pick one of these guys, I probably would pick oh, I got the screen popped up here. I Baltimore's really good. I'd probably oh man, Pittsburgh's defense might be good. I would still probably go Cooper Cup, honestly.
Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't touch any of these guys on his bench that aren't those two running backs. I would be in a position where, unfortunately, I had to play them both against a
Okay.
tough defense. Thielen did nothing last week, as you saw.
Yeah.
Tillman, it's against Baltimore. It's tougher, so I'm not trying to trust that. And Cooper Cup, as sexy as a name it is, I mean, he came out and he had 15 yards receiving.
And he was
I,
dropped in 11% of
yeah.
leagues, I
So
saw.
and
I
so
mean, that's
he's riding off of name alone right now, but Eckler's upside with the catching, if it's in it,
yeah,
it's there at any point in time. But to me, you kind of get both ends of the spectrum here, where if the game goes well for the
exactly.
Commanders, it's likely because they're scoring. So whether that's Eckler related, whether it's Merritt related, doesn't really matter. If it's not,
Down
you
a
know
little.
Eckler's going to be involved. Merritt's kind of a wash at that, not really a wash, but kind of a it's just a spot. I mean,
Sure.
you're gonna lose out on one or the other. I don't think there's really a realm where both of them perform well enough. However,
Right.
I would trust that more than
And I don't think Merritt had a single catch last week either. So
no.
I could see a game plan where Merritt is kind of their downhill runner. And but like you said though, that's not a bad point at all. If they go down, which they could, but this should be a relatively, we would hope, close game. Eckler should be in there making some grabs. So it's just tough because the only really pairs I can remember over the last handful of years that you could actually like go in and start both has been Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt for a decent bit in Cleveland, and then Montgomery and Gibbs the last couple of years. Those are
Yeah.
really the only times I can where if you actually had both of them, you could feel comfortable starting them both. I just can't remember too much of that in the past. So it's ballsy, but it could work out. Tyler's side real quick, I will say um again, I think there's quite a few names here. Like you said, AJ Brown could bounce back. Who's going on there? This or that. Travis Etienne had a hell of a game last week. Does he do that again? I'm gonna go with Travion Henderson. I think he had a solid game last week. I don't think anyone can scoff at the 8 points he got. Not bad, but he only had 5 rushes, and this was in a very close game. I mean, we're talking this was like a one-score game the entire time. Now, granted, he did haul in 6 catches for 24 yards, which means he really wasn't getting anything on these catches. But granted, points are points. Can't get mad at that. But again, it's only been one game, but I hate to say I wasn't like all that impressed by him. It's not like they were giving him a ton of volume yet. People would argue that 11 attempts is a decent volume, which it is, but 5 rushes in a close game like that tells me he's not really your go-to guy out of the backfield in terms of running the ball yet. But again, the matchup, Miami, they sucked last week. So Travion Henderson could be a guy that scores 20 points this week, and now he's on everyone's radar. But if against Miami and they win, and he has 7 points again, I'd be a little worried. So I think Henderson's the X factor there.
All right. Well, what we're never doing again is that.
Dude, it's been
No, we're
I'm a
not doing
teacher,
that
man.
ever. We're
I've
not
been
doing it ever
all
again.
week.
If we do that ever again, show is over for the rest of the time.
Dude, I'm telling you, the students literally wait until there's that much time left in class, and they will ask me how much time is left because they want me to say 6, 7 minutes left.
Yeah,
It's insane. The
I
six
never.
seven's taken over.
I don't understand what it is. I know it's a
Me
whole
neither.
meme thing. It has no place here on the Sideline Fantasy Football Podcast. I'll tell you that much. We're no. All right. Well, before we close things out, and get our OTP ons, probably watch some
Yeah.
football after that. A big game, I think, for both teams in Washington and Green Bay. Outside of Jaden Daniels, give me your MVP for tonight.
Ooh, MVP for tonight. Man, oh man, I don't want to pick a Packer. Ugh. Um, I'll say Josh Jacobs.
All right, that's fair. For me, I'm probably going with Matthew Golden. I think Matthew Golden finds
Okay.
a little sprinkling in on prime time. I think he was maybe banged up coming into this one, but I just know that I think that they're gonna force Love to pass the ball more so, which in turn turns into a Dobbs, a Jaden Reed. In
Right.
this case, a Matthew Golden going off on Thursday night, which I feel like is something we see more often than not for the Packers. So that's my
And
guy.
Golden was kind of the guy coming into the year that a lot of people were raving about.
You know,
Obviously, being the first
he
round pick.
came in. He had 2 grabs last week. I know they played Detroit and they were up pretty early. So if this game's going to be competitive and Washington's going to stick around, I feel like we see more Golden this week, and I feel like
Yeah.
this is where he puts his name on the map for sure.
And here's the tough thing is obviously I don't like taking Packers regardless, but I did pick up Dobbs and stuff like this week. It seems like since Love has been the quarterback, and again, I don't watch all Packers games, but I do see a decent amount being local and stuff like that. Um, it doesn't seem like Love ever seems to have a favorite target. It does seem like he spreads the ball around a lot, whether it was Watson, Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Wicks, obviously Golden now. It just does not seem like he's ever had that guy or that guy that he just goes to. It just seems like, hey, you're open. I'm getting it to you. I'm getting it to you. He doesn't force feed it to anybody.
No,
It seems like so,
and it
and that
sucks
makes
for
it tough from a
fantasy.
fantasy
It sucks
perspective.
for fantasy. For a football perspective, full fledged, you love it. You don't
Yeah,
have to feel that that pressure. Fantasy wise, it's a headache. You have to make sure you
yeah.
have the right guy that week.
Guy is it?
And I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, you want a piece of it because it's going to be so prevalent, but at the same time, you're not trying to guess. So I mean, your Dobbses and stuff. And the tough part too with that is last year we saw it. Jaden Reed went off. He went off. He went off. He got traded to Kyle. He sucked. Kyle would play him. He would suck. He would suck. He would suck. Kyle would bench him. He would cook. Kyle would play him. He would suck. So it's hard to dictate how those guys are going to go just because there's no, not rhyme or reason, but like you said, there's no pecking order when it comes to that Green Bay receiver.
yeah. 10 different guys had a catch last week for Green Bay. I mean,
That's
that's a lot.
I can't even name 10 pass catches on my own team.
No, yeah, no, it's crazy. It is interesting. So should be a good game tonight. I hope it's close. I hope it's good. Obviously a lot of stuff will be told tonight. I think Green Bay is a little bit of a 3.5 point favorite. It looks like so. It's in Lambeau, but I mean, how big would it be? I mean, I know Washington won a lot of games last year, so I don't want to say it's a prove it game for them, but how big would it be to go into Lambeau and win this one and start off 2-0?
I,
That
I
I
think
think that
I
would
think
put
it's
them.
massive. It's massive coming off of week ones that they both did, where they
Yeah.
struggled against the Giants and the Packers look at their Super Bowl contenders already.
Yeah.
Massive.
It'd be a huge flip of the script on the narrative
Yeah,
that's been going on.
absolutely.
All right. Well, any last thoughts, Crimmy?
Nope, that's it. I'm excited to get week two going, trying to go off that 2-0 start. Trying to see you falter into that
Yeah.
0-13 season that you're after and everyone
On my
wants to
way
see you have.
towards.
So
Yeah.
let's get to it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening into our week one review, week two preview show. Like I said, we will try to get to you weekly. There might be some weekends where either of us has some engagements that we might not be able to get to it, but hey, we'll get to you as much as we can. Hope you're enjoying the league so far, especially for the new guys, and best of luck in week two. Thanks for tuning in.